And I guess the Tar Heels are fearing the NCAA Tournament Reaper? Maybe. Is that too much of a stretch? Maybe that's the case. I don't know. Saturday, they lose. You're making a face at me as though you're about to give me the ultimate it always works out for Carolina take of all time. Because if you can spin for me, Joe, that everything works out in the end for the Tar Heels, are you about to tell me that having lost to Duke, that they desperately needed that win to get on the right side of the NCAA tournament bubble, are you about to tell me that this squad's about to reel off 4 wins in 4 days? Is that what you're about to tell me?
No.
Okay.
No. What I would say, though, is I could see North Carolina getting Armando Bacot back. I could see R.J. Davis coming back. I could see them maybe this time going into the portal and being like, yeah, we need someone who can make a shot. That's what we need.
Oh, we're already talking about next year.
Yeah, but that's how this would spin forward.
Yeah.
See, the premise isn't the premise, which is rock solid, by the way, isn't that UNC is lucky, isn't that they're guaranteed to win. It is if something good can happen, it will.
So, all right.
So the suffrage for this season just might turn out to be a payoff next season. That's all.
So hold up. This is like deeper layers of...
Yeah, you got to get the whole cork board and the strings and the pictures.
What is it? Always Sunny, where the guy, what's his face, is doing this into with the cork board and the strings behind him?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that the redemption story and book
would just be delayed by a year.
Will be written after this year.
Yeah. No, Saturday's snapshot to me was it's 60-57. Carolina's down. They have the ball. Mm-hmm. There's Caleb Love on the wing with the ball. We've seen this before against Duke, no less.
And
he plays the hero. That shot wasn't even close.
But he's the anti-hero. Are you saying, hi?
Even close.
It's me?
No,
Caleb Love's the problem. It's me?
No, I'm not going to blame it all on him. He went 0 for 6 from 3. But what I'm saying is last year, think of how charmed it was.
Yeah.
And how poetically perfect it was that it was Love dotting Mark Williams at the Final Four. At the top of the key in the Superdome. You know, the iconic shot of all time. Arguably in Carolina basketball history.
Well, there's 2 moments for Caleb Love.
And then here he is on Saturday, completely inept, unable to come through. And to me, that's what the bookend was for this group. That's what it looked like.
It's funny you mentioned Caleb Love in moments in that Duke-Carolina rivalry because there's 2 of them for Caleb Love last year. There is him leaving underneath the basket, all smiles with the tongue out, like, we just ruined your going away party. And then, of course,
he was outstanding too.
He was great in that game. And of course, as you mentioned, the shot over Mark Williams in the Final Four. But I found it interesting that you said Armando comes back and RJ comes back, but not Caleb Love because he also has eligibility. The only person who literally ran out of eligibility that was honored on Saturday was Leaky Black.
Yeah.
And while they went through the process for Armando Bacot, with a video message, and he was honored at midcourt and everything else before the game, there is this sentiment that the NIL money for him to come back would be too good compared to going to the NBA. So
or maybe he just wants another run at it, too.
Well,
let's not underestimate that.
Here's my question. What good would that do Hubert Davis if these guys came back?
Given that they don't have a rock-solid class coming in like they do in 24, probably staves it off, man. The knives are out for Hubert Davis with Carolina fans. I know... look, some of the stuff that goes on between me and Carolina fans on Twitter is mostly all in good fun, most of it.
Sure.
But the truth of the matter is there's always a kernel there, right? And how quickly they are to turn on everybody who's not, oh my God, Carolina's the greatest thing in the history of the world.
Well, they did it to Roy Williams too.
Yeah, and they're quickly getting there. And they were last year with Hubert Davis. Remember after the Kentucky loss and the Tennessee loss early in the season. And now again, you're seeing the knives out for Hubert Davis. And it's like, guys, they went to the Final Four last year. They were a 3-pointer away from winning the national championship last year.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you're ready to run them out of town again, and it's like it's exhausting. It's just exhausting. Well, I don't get it.
Those are extreme. Those are extreme views that are on social media that I don't really think have a good sentiment. Okay, because I brought up Roy Williams to illustrate a point. The man won a national championship, and it wasn't until his second national championship that
the first one were with Matt Doherty's players.
People wanted to make it a thing.
Right.
You think I'm being ridiculous?
No, you're not. You're not.
That was a thing back in the day. And I remember I think it's been long enough now that I can tell the story, that in an effort to make fun of the dumb takes that happen after a huge loss with Roy Williams, I decided to just run a search of, fire Roy Williams, to the point where I duped our own company into thinking that the sentiment was real. No, I simply was pointing and laughing at these idiots on Twitter that were saying, Roy Williams, it's time for a change, it's time for this, it's time for that. Of course, he goes on to win another championship in 2017. But the point is that I used the sentiment and how silly it was to the point where we as a company ran a poll asking whether or not Roy Williams should be fired. And I turned ghostly white going, wait a minute, did this person not realize I was using these Twitter things as a joke to point and laugh? And that's all I can really do at people who want to criticize Hubert Davis and everything else. But this is why, to get back to the Armando Bacot, RJ Davis thing, if we're being pragmatic about this, if we're being a little bit more level-headed about Carolina, is it a Hubert Davis problem or is it this core group problem? And that's why I asked the question, do you really want Armando Bacot, RJ Davis, and Caleb Love coming back? And there's the attitude of, not get Caleb Love out of here. Bring back Armando and RJ. Again, I'll ask the question, are you sure? Because in this core group, what have we seen over the last 3 years? We saw a core group that Roy Williams got fed up with and retired. We saw a core group that Hubert Davis struggled to get going, and if it wasn't for some circumstances of all coming together and, lightning hitting in Brady Manick and then going on this run, a little bracket luck, okay, and Duke being this way to the honing beacon that they could focus on and get over, they're back to what has largely been their results over the last 3 years. So and it's not like Armando Bacot needs more growth. He was like this question about the NIT, right? Like let's say North Carolina makes it to the NIT. They don't make the NCAA tournament, they get to the NIT. And there's this attitude of, well, no, they should play in it. Why? What are you gaining out of that? Unless you told me Hubert Davis was going to play nothing but the young guys, that it was going to be the Tremble show and that kind of stuff. Okay. All right, I'll grant you that, but that's not what's going to happen. All the people who were begging for bench play, what do we see in the first half against Duke? We saw a whole bunch of bench play, and it kept Carolina somewhat in it when Caleb Love was being costly for them in the first half. So again, I get back to that central question. NIL's easy, but there's a flip side to the idea of keeping people around for a long time, because that's the whole the goal of NIL. This would incorporate guys of having stuck around a little bit longer. Imagine if they stuck around XYZ. Well, sometimes it's okay that you need to go and separate and have a change of scenery. Maybe Armando Bacot continues his college career. Maybe it's not at North Carolina. And the same with RJ Davis. Because I do think that this entire group, both the core group and Hubert Davis, need a fresh start. Need a fresh start after this season. I don't know if going out and go to the transfer portal like what happened with Pete Nance is going to be the answer again. Because what, you think we're just going to, well, we swung and missed on Brady Manick 2.0. Maybe we'll get it right this next time. Or maybe Brady Manick was a special situation. Sometimes you swing and miss. I mean, I know you've talked about this when it comes to NC State. We've talked about this with Wake Forest. Sometimes you go in the transfer portal and it hits like it has for NC State this year with DJ Burns and Jarkel Joyner. Other times it doesn't. So it might just be time for a fresh start at Carolina if they don't make the NCAA tournament. But it starts Wednesday, man. You talk about bracket luck. They're not going to face teams they haven't beaten. So they got that going for them, right? To get to Saturday.
I like their draw, but after seeing them in person on Saturday, it's just not. It's just there's just something missing with this group. I don't know if it's. I think it's more than just Brady Manick.
Yeah,